Hello, how are we doing? We are doing a celebration stream today. Because we have all of us in this moment submitted the PhDs. Thanks for all the kind messages. Thank you, Arnog. We're just doing. I'm back from holiday. I've been on holiday for 2 weeks. Some of it was holiday. And we're back for streaming and celebrating the submission of this big heavy document. 100,000 words of hopefully passable material. That's all we really need. Passable material. And there's 100,000 words of passable material in here. We're assuming. I'm scared to open it and read it any sort of page in case there's a typo in it that I have to look at and be like, oh fuck, there's a typo. It's a real book, a real thing. It feels weird to hold it like as a real thing when it's been sort of ephemeral for so long. We're gonna talk about more stuff than just me gassing myself up. Don't worry, today. But I did think it would be nice, since it's a Thursday and since it's been a while, couple of weeks since we were last streaming, to do some to have a little celebratory stream. It looks like it's large enough to be a weapon. Honestly, it's very heavy. I had to carry 3 of these around from South London to Senate House in Bloomsbury, and the 3 of them, like I could have full on killed someone if I dropped that the bag with the 3 of them on someone's head. It is heavy. Yeah. Cheers, Gil. Thank you. So first things first. In celebration, I bought a nicer wine today. I pushed the boat out. Because I was in Bloomsbury, I could go to the bigger Sainsbury's. Was gonna go to Lidl, but ran out of time. But this wine was on deal from £7.50 from £8.75 to £7.50. So this better be good. For anyone who's not been to streams before, we drink wine and I talk about it because I know wine. And if anyone says I don't know wine, they're lying to you just to smear me. And that will not stand. Because I know wine. And I know that this wine is oh my god, what a load of guff. It's not even tell it. So, oh my god. Let me read you this guff. Reinhold was in the vineyard. Let me actually 1 second. Let me get out of. Actually, we're gonna change the music before I read this because it's so stupid. We're gonna change the music here and then we're gonna get into. I'm gonna read the description of this wine. It's gonna be a sort of a much better wine. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've had it. I've done it. Thanks for popping in, Arnock. I appreciate it. Dramatic wine reading incoming. Now with this, we can start talking about what this wine says. This is my audition for. We've gone off track very quickly today. This is my audition for Marks and Spencer's to read your adverts. This isn't a Marks and Spencer's wine though. Reinhold was in the vineyard tending to his unyielding crop, hoping for a miracle. Suddenly, a lightning bolt shot down from the storm clouds above and struck the young winemaker. Product of Germany. Pfalz. I'm reading it as is written. When he awoke, Reinhold saw that the once shriveled grapes were luscious and full, and the birds he had considered a pest appeared to be guarding the vines. He knew his sole purpose was to harness this new energy that was inside him, gross, to create the very best Riesling in all the land. So he did. Centuries later, the descendants of Reinhold continued to produce a superior Riesling that is as zesty as it is rich, with intense honey fruit aromas and crisp citrus edge. 11% per volume, so not the best, but still got some. Here we go. Marks and Spencer's hire me for your adverts. The miracle of the vineyard. Fuck, if this isn't a miraculous wine, I'll be fuming. It does smell like wine. I will say that. It does smell like wine. And it tastes like wine. I will say, for the fucking parable that was on the label there, I was expecting more, but it is drinkable, as my mother would say. That's very drinkable. That's very drinkable. It's fine. It's fine. What a letdown. Well, not a letdown. At least it's not bad. Fucking hell. The Reinhold miracle. We are creating wine which is essentially fine. Thank you to everyone who is sending congrats. I can't answer them all, but I appreciate each and every one of them. I have no plan for the stream today, except just to sort of chat about it a bit. It's been a while, so things I've missed, conversations, discourses that I've meant to talk about. I will talk about the hotel I stayed in Shetland, because that was wild. It was like The Shining. But aside from that, I might talk about some shows that I saw when I was at the back at my family's house in Edinburgh for the Fringe. Other than that, free for all in times of in questions and things that you guys want to talk about, and just let me know and I can fucking spaff out some shite. Let's get me cancelled just as I submit my PhD. That would be good. Hello Tinfoil, how's it going? It is definitely wine. He's saying my advice would not be to touch it for a month or so unless the Viva is soon. And yeah, guaranteed to find a typo on the first page. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to look at it until I've got my Viva date and everything set. There's no need for that. I'm going to do a video on the PhD when I get round to it, but that's probably going to be in a wee while. I've got a couple of ideas first that I'm going to do. Obviously the one I've been working on for a while on public intellectuals, that's still in the works. It's not been completed yet, and I still need some more time to work on that and the research and everything and the arguments. So I'm going to do a couple of shorter videos. First of all, on stuff that I did conference presentations of, which are sort of aspects of the PhD. I'm going to try and sort of remove them and try and make them communicatable to you guys who don't have the context of the rest of the PhD to sort of make it make sense. But hopefully should be kind of shorter 15-20 minute videos to try and give some insight into the stuff I've been doing for the past 4 years. The wine is fine. It's okay. It is not worth the story that was told on the label. I don't believe a miracle made this wine. I will say this much. I've had wine that's nice and I'm like, fucking hell, maybe a miracle made this. This is not that wine. This is wine that someone made and is a bit acidic. It's something. I might have one of my nice whiskies later. My flatmate got me a lovely bottle of Talisker 18-year-old whiskey, which is delicious. And I might have some of that later as a wee celebration. Must say, I am trying to get into the academia prison. I need to find a job in the academia prison before I can actually consider myself part of it. It's hard to get there in the first place. But once I get a job, I'll look forward to the prison. It's one of the features of academia these days, in the UK at least, is that it's not much of a prison because they're always trying to get you out of it. They're trying to, disintegrate social science departments, history departments, English, lit departments, philosophy departments, and fire as many people as possible from those departments, and then rehire them again as casualized workers. So getting into it is pretty hard. It's not much of a prison. It's more like a getting constantly kicked out of a bar. That's what academia is like. Getting constantly. Hey, not to conform to any stereotypes about Scottish people, but isn't academia just like drinking? Fucking hell. So someone asked what the PhD is about. So I've never quite managed to do a good elevator pitch for it. Essentially, I say things like it examines the ways in which UK-based social movements use human rights as an organising frame to tackle the commodification of certain areas which are associated with neoliberalism, namely housing, education, welfare rights areas, and basically the social reproductive areas. So if you've heard of my channel, a lot of the stuff I talk about is social reproduction theory, big part of this thesis, and the role between the social reproduction theory and neoliberalism is a big part of this thesis. I could read out the abstract, but it would take a while because it's like 750 words or so. Lots of stuff on there's like basically two sides of it. There's the stuff on the ability of movements which use human rights and the efficacy of human rights to challenge neoliberal hegemony, and then there is how people using human rights in a subaltern way challenges the hegemony of legal institutions which use human rights, basically the internal hegemony of the human rights discourse. Because when people say human rights, and this is reflective of a lot of people who've done work on human rights, a lot of people still talk about it as if it's purely legal, purely positivistic, and purely part of the legal or international legal system. But that doesn't reflect the reality of people. I found people on the ground who use it to organise, who specifically oppose legal means of campaigning and of using human rights. So there is a challenge between the sort of hegemonic, positivistic, legal view of human rights and this subaltern sort of social movement frame of it. So there's the two sides. Have I done my Viva yet? I have not done my Viva yet. We are still waiting on confirmation from examiners. I have one examiner who's probably going to do it, who will be good to get, and I've got another examiner that we're waiting to hear back on. And then we've got to do stuff like there's so much bureaucracy. There's so many forms, so many dates to organise. Very circuitous. But as I told my supervisor earlier today, my kink is circuitous bureaucracies. So I'm fucking loving it. I'm having a great time. Forms, oh yeah, there we go. Don't we love that? I love filling in a form. I love emailing. Can you do this date? Oh yeah. Oh, we can't do this date. Brilliant. Send back another email. Yes. That's what I like. I will be John the Doctor Unkin. John the Doctor Unkin. I think that's the thing that makes most sense. What's a Viva? It's a basically you've not got a final examination for your PhD. What you have instead is you have two examiners who look at the PhD and then basically question you on it. And some of them can be really nice. I've had friends who've had really, really nice Vivas who have walked in and the examiners have been like, we both agree that this should pass, so you don't have to worry about, performing in this. We just want to talk to you about it, and it's lovely. I've heard some people who've had absolutely terrible Viva experiences, but still passed. Most people pass. It's like a 95% pass rate or something once you get to a Viva, unless you get some like shithead, which we're trying to avoid. Really leaving John the Dr. Unkin on the table? Yes, that's the one that makes most sense, I think. It's the non-legalistic, non-positivistic conception of human rights that activists here invoke, more like a moral conception, e.g. grounded in human being, and not in particular citizenship. Not quite. There's a degree of that, but they tend to be very I realised my microphone was too loud there. They tend to be very pragmatic about it. So a lot of the time, they are. There's three basic ways that they use it. That I've found. First of all, is a very easy way to introduce people to campaigns. It's a form of language that people understand when you're trying to explain to them, why are you fighting for housing? Why are you fighting for education? Why are you fighting? And they're like, people are being excluded, but we have a right to education, and like that. There's a moral dimension there, but like the way that they're using it is pragmatic. And then as connected to that is they use it as a sort of baseline to introduce more radical critiques. So they tend to say, so you've got a right to housing. Why are you being denied that right? It's because of this factor. It's because of private property ownership, systems of private renting, all that go back to capitalist and imperialist modes of production. And they I had multiple people saying things like, we get people on board with the right to housing, but then we talk about deeper things to get them involved in the campaign, and we really build upon that. And the third way is this contesting commodification way. So they use it specifically to say housing is being commodified, and we are against that specific mode of commodification. We should have a right to access to housing at all areas, or we have a right to education, people are being excluded and such. And so they're using it as a very direct attack line against that commodification. So there is a sort of moral and moral sort of view, but it's less in that traditional like citizenship versus non-citizenship way, and more just like this is a thing that's hurting people, and we need to fucking find ways to organise around and fix it. I'm doing some work at Amnesty for the time being. I'd really love to look into the PhD. Would I have to buy it somewhere, or are there any other ways? I literally don't know what the customs here are. So I will likely be once it's done with the Viva. I won't be sending it to anyone until it's done with the Viva, and I can be sure that it's just for myself up to decent standard. But once it's done, I'm going to be posting that. I'll like to message me and I'll send it to you. I'll post the whole thing on Patreon. I don't know if that's legal, but fuck it, I will send it to anyone who asks. You don't have to buy it. One thing you can say, the British Library has a record of all PhDs on file. And you can access them there. I don't know how long it takes after a Viva to upload them to the British Library, but British Library, if you just search PhDs, titles of them or individuals, or even like themes, you'll be able to find it. But regardless, I will send it to anyone who asks. So, just ask me and I'll send it. But once the Viva's done. Are you going to try and become a political scientist, philosopher, sociologist, or become unassociated with academia? I'm trying to get into sociology departments, like lecturing in sociology. That's the best fit for both me and the sort of topic of the PhD. Unfortunately, there seems to be much more jobs going in political science departments, which is something I can do. My background before this was political science, and the PhD could very easily fit into a political science framework or political theory framework. But political science departments are often very right-wing. So I wouldn't want to get stuck in a political science department. At this stage, I'd find any job that I can. But political science or sociology would be where I'm most likely to end up. Hell yeah. Thanks, man. Where can I message you? Twitter, Instagram. My email is on YouTube, I think. I think one of the links on YouTube is got my email address. Any of those. Oh, thank you, Mitchell. Would it help if anyone else cited it and stuff? Probably can't. I can give it a try. Not really. I mean, the general view of a PhD is that the most people who read it are gonna be you, your supervisor, and the two examiners. So people don't really expect PhDs to be cited. You can if you like. It's still a piece of academic work. If it interests you more than anything. In the US, there's often a 2 to 4 year period which dissertations are under embargo, only after which they're made publicly available. Don't know if it's. I don't think it's the same over here. I think there is a. I can't remember the exact sort of regulations. I think it pretty quickly goes into the British Library, but I think if you're looking to publish it into a book, you can embargo it because that's got a whole other load of copyright issues. So you embargo it until you've dealt with, I don't know, whatever book contract or something. I'm not sure if this will end up a book. I'll wait until the Viva. I'll wait until my examiners ask or recommend or anything. I think there's parts of it that could be interesting to expand into a book, but I'm not sure the PhD itself is necessarily one I'd want to push into book format. We really never knew about that side of poli-sci. Political science, international relations, economics, so right-wing. At most, left liberal. You get very few sort of radical political scientists, and even fewer radical international relations folk. Should I do a PhD just for the hell of it? Free in Europe, innit, but worth the mental anguish? Hey, if it's free, if you feel like you want to do it, I wouldn't recommend it in Britain because it's hard finding funding, but if you feel like you can do it and you want to just piss about and do a PhD and get some paid money, and I hear the conditions in Europe are much better, fuck it. Dead Philosopher saying, congratulations on finishing, thank you. I'm trying to decide if I want to stay at my teaching job one more year or apply for programs now. It's up to you, isn't it? There's never any rush to do it, to do a PhD thing. No one's ever been left out for rushing it. If anything, taking your time with it's probably better. Hear this, Gil will say, Dead Philosopher saying, philosophy can also be very right-wing in the US. My department was very right-wing. Philosophers are either very cool or the worst people on earth. No in between. I know a few philosophers and I can speak to that. I mean, there's some, like, the book, How the West Came to Rule, was written very specifically. It's written by two international relations lecturers, professors, whatever. And it was written very specifically as a rebuke against how right-wing their departments are. How right-wing the entire discipline of international relations is. It's a well-known sort of view, at least in the UK, but probably beyond that. International relations and poli-sci, economics, pretty right-wing disciplines. They're kind of structurally right-wing. I think for political science, there's like it's a discipline which is overly focused on institutions and ends up, because of that, becoming quite static in its worldview. And I think that's why it ends up, part of the reason why it ends up being quite right-wing, it's probably kind of circular in that a lot of people who do politics are themselves sort of brought into this discipline, which is has a reputation for being right-wing, and has a reputation for training civil servants and politicians, and so the people that do it end up having particular political persuasions as well. It's kind of circular in that way. Probably, I remember my undergrad class in political theory, which was taught by probably the most left-wing kind of person you'd expect in a political science department. It was a Rawlsian, a left-wing Rawlsian, a follower of John Rawls. And in that way, I didn't respect him. I didn't know enough back then to respect him or not. But even that class, which was the best case scenario, one of the best case scenarios, the whole political theory class was Aristotle, Rousseau, Mills, Hobbes, Locke, half a class on Mary Wollstonecraft, half a class on Marx. They were the same class. And then contemporary political philosophy, which was John Rawls. Which is, bad. That's bad. That's quite right wing. But that's the canon. The canon is very right wing or liberal. It's quite right wing. Yeah. I can imagine me finding a department like that quite frustrating. But it seems like most of the jobs going right now are in poli-sci departments. Rosian is about as good as you're likely to get in poli-sci. Yeah, it absolutely is. Unless I somehow accidentally end up in there, and then I'm just like fucking rolling around as like a rogue Marxist within the liberal heart of poli-sci. I mean, I say poli-sci, like, sociology is not great either in terms of, like, there was that Oliver North tweet. Oh, what a weird sentence. There was that Oliver North tweet about, thank you, Toast Boy. That wasn't Oliver North, that was me. There was that Oliver North tweet about how, American universities are now incubators for Marxism. And I was sitting there looking at it, thinking about that political theory class, and thinking about a job that I almost got last year working for a sociology department in London, and in their class on the sociology of the British Empire, the one essential text was Niall Ferguson text, which is absurd. That is so right wing. There were other supplementary texts that weren't that, which were better, but like to use Niall Ferguson as your one text on the British Empire is wild. That guy is the sort of guy who writes stuff like the British Empire was great because it provided railways and development for the world. The British Empire was really the purveyor of civilization across the world. So sociology is not getting off with it either. Unfortunately, Oliver North is wrong. Wow. That's not something I thought I would say. Unfortunately, Oliver North is wrong. And you can quote me on that. Should we change up the music? Yeah, what were the railways for? I didn't get that job because the university, not because I didn't. I got invited to the to an interview for that job, and then the university sent me 2 different emails to join the Zoom meeting, and I clicked on one of them and nobody turned up, and then I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then they just and then when I figured out that they'd sent me two different Zoom addresses, they were just like, oh yeah, sorry, we've decided to give it to these people who were at this who we interviewed today, and they wouldn't even give me a chance to interview after their fuck up. So kind of glad I didn't get that job. Let's get some more music. Sorry, I didn't like that. I didn't like that one. So we're going to do this again. I'll swallow a frozen grape for y'all later. Don't worry. I remember almost choking to death on a frozen grape. About this time last year. This is what I'm here for. Whoever said in the chat that I should be insisting on donations for this. I am not good at this. I'm not good at YouTube. I should be like, yeah, give fucking super chat, and then I'll swallow a grape whole for you like a performing monkey. Hold me to it. Yeah, hold me to it. I mean, once I've finished this glass, I'll get some frozen grapes in it, because to be honest, the wine is warming up already. And it does, if you've got a PhD, this is the first thing they teach you in PhD school. Is if you're I don't know if anyone knows this, but if you freeze grapes and put it in your wine, it can actually cool the wine down without diluting it. And that's a really good trick if you want to cool your wine down without diluting it, without using ice cubes, because ice cubes do dilute the wine. But grapes, they remain grapes. They don't dilute. What did I get a PhD in exactly? That winology. Yep. They don't teach that in American grad school. That's why America is falling behind China as the superpower of the world, because they're not telling you the important stuff in life. It's sad to see the superpower of the world. Did I publish that book? I got the PhD bound into that book. Yeah. Can we get a PDF for it? I will, once it's gone through the Viva process, I will then be sending out PDFs of it to anyone who asks. So in a couple of months, basically, we'll have PDF. Yeah, I'll send it to anyone who wants it. But yeah, the first thing that you learn in real grad school, not American grad school, but real grad school, is to put frozen grapes in your wine. I think legally they have to give you that. It's like one of those things they have to put in the class. Like, you've got to do a certain amount of research training, you've got to do a certain amount of teaching, you have to do a certain amount of putting frozen grapes in your wine to cool it down. More reasons to move to Scotland. First, I mean, I'm not in Scotland, I am in London. I don't live in Scotland right now. But this also applies to Scotland. My good friend says that's where all the Marxists and sluts are, so I should go there. And she didn't mention the grapes though. Man, I wish there were more Marxists and I guess more sluts in Scotland. It's not where all. I mean, there's plenty of them down in London as well. Scotland really does get up its own arse sometimes. Don't tell the other Scottish people or they'll be mad at me. But we're just like the English. Nobody's allowed to say that. Nobody's allowed to tell me to the other Scottish people, because they'll get mad. But we are basically just English people with better accents. There's not much difference, no matter what they tell you. There we go. Finn's on my side. A nation of two, me and Finn. Come to Maastricht. I mean, I've not been on a holiday in a long time. I've not left the country since 2018. The first time I got on a plane since 2018 was flying to Shetland the other week, which was less of a holiday and more of a funeral. That's right. I was going to talk to you about the terrible hotel that we stayed in. That was like The Shining. So for those who I'm Scottish Marxist and slutty, so it must run in my blood. Hey, I mean, we've all seen the number of buttons I have undone, so we're not casting aspersions here. So I was up in Shetland for it was unfortunately and sadly my grandmother's funeral. It was a very, very nice funeral. It was lovely, and it was a nice send off to her. But the amount of places, one great undone button exactly. The amount of places to stay in Shetland has declined, and or at least there's much more tourist industry than there was. So finding a hotel or an Airbnb was impossible to stay in, and we ended up finding rooms in the Grand Hotel in Lerwick, which is a 19th century hotel. I'm sure I know at one stage it was very grand, because there's a sign in the museum about its opening and about like very grand people going there. And so it cost I think for 2 rooms for 2 nights £800. So expensive for rooms for 5 people, £800. And we arrived, and this hotel was like something from The Shining. Is that in Scotland? So Shetland Islands are the furthest north sort of part of Scotland. They're like islands halfway between the mainland and Orkney. The mainland and Norway. And they are so they're very far north. They're like quite close to the Arctic Circle. So they're very remote. They are in Scotland since, I guess, like they used to be they used to be in Denmark. They used to be I think there's been attempts to make them part of Norway at points, because if Scottish people are parochial, folk from Shetland are extra parochial. So we arrived at this hotel, and we wandered up, and like the paint is peeling from the ceilings. There's cracks in the walls. It was legitimately like The Shining, except the Overlook Hotel in The Shining is much better maintained. And we turned up at the sort of concierge desk. If anyone's ever seen Grand Budapest Hotel, it has like a similar kind of concierge desk, but there was nothing there except a chalk sign that said, for reception, go to the bar. And so we were like, all right, we'll go to the bar. And this lovely bar woman was like, oh yeah, you're signed in, so follow us up here. And we went up to our room through the narrow corridors and dim lit corridors of the Grand Hotel into our room. And it was me, my brother, and my dad. And we went into the room, and there was 2 beds. And we were like, okay, I think there's supposed to be an extra bed in here. And the poor bar woman was like, it was Grand Budapest Hotel post downfall. Like, you know how Grand Budapest Hotel has like 4 time frames, where it has the period where it was grand, then the period where it was sort of run down but still operational, and then the period where old Jude Law is writing his book. I imagine it's the period where old Jude Law is writing his book, where there's no more concierge at all. The notion of a concierge has been replaced with the bartender. So we got taken to this room, and we were like, we need another bed in here, and it didn't look like you could fit another bed in there. And so the bartender called up our manager, the guy who owns the hotel, and he came up and was like, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll just head out in 20 minutes. Tell the bartender down the stairs that you're heading out, and I'll I'll come up and we'll move this chest of drawers, and we'll fit another bed in here. So we're like, all right, okay, cool. So we went down 20 minutes later and said to the bartender, "Oh, that's us heading out now," and and the bartender was like, all right, sure. We were like, "Oh yeah, so can we give you the key? Do we give you the key?" And she was like, "No, you can just keep your key. That's fine. It's your key." And we were like, but the manager said, like, your boss said he wanted to get into the room. And she was like, "Oh, why was that?" And we're like, "Because he wants to put a bed in there." And she was like, "Oh, okay, that's weird." He hadn't told her that no communication had happened between this boss and the bartender. So we had to explain to her what he told us, and she was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll just text him now." And so we're like, "Yeah, I guess so." So we went out and we wandered around and ended up going to the museum. My granddad has some things in the museum, and it's nice to see the old stuff, like the old stuff that's really nice in there is like there's old knitting patterns. That was my granny's main job for most of her life, was knitting patterns. She used to work in a knitting shop where Paul and Linda McCartney came in, and she had to sew on Paul McCartney's button onto his jumper. She always said, I have a fine folk. They're awful fine folk. Especially her. She really likes Linda McCartney. She was awful fine. Anyway, so we went out, and when we came back, there were indeed 3 beds in this room, just sandwiched up together because it was way too small for 3 beds, and a random like wardrobe just facing us, and clearly the guys had forgotten to take away their screwdrivers, because there was also just a bunch of like screwdrivers all over the place. So we're like, I guess this is fine, whatever, we're here for 2 nights. And so we stayed there. I went down for breakfast. It was grand at one point, describes a fair bit of Scotland. Yeah, fair enough. So we were there for 2 nights. So first morning we went down. We went for breakfast, and you know how most like hotels have like those sort of breakfast bars where they have like just vats of mushrooms and beans and scrambled eggs and shit like that. They had the facilities for that, but they didn't have any of that. And we sort of walked down, and we were like looking around in this room, and we were like, I guess we'll just sort of help ourselves to some fruit, because like that said that breakfast is provided, and obviously it was very expensive. And me and my brother were just wandering around, and this guy came up to us and was like, "What do you want?" And we're like, "Sorry?" And we're just like, "Yeah, what are you after?" And we're like, we were just looking for breakfast. And it turned that guy was the waiter, apparently. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, no, just tell us what you want. No menu or anything." And we were like, "Eggs maybe?" And they were like, "Eggs, good. Eggs, beans." And we're like, "Yeah, beans would be good. Mushrooms, yeah, mushrooms would be nice. What about sausages and bacon?" We're like, we're vegetarian, so none of that. I was like, "All right, cool." And then my brother's partner came down and was like, "I'm vegan. Is there anything vegan for me?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we could we can fry you up some eggs and beans." And she was like, "No eggs. I'm vegan." They're like, No eggs? What do you mean? Like, so I was like, "Yeah, no eggs. I'm vegan." And they were like, "Beans then?" And I'm like, "Yeah, beans. But you won't be able to have toast." And she was like, I can have toast. Toast is fine." And they were like, "But no eggs." And she's like, "Oh yeah, no eggs. So we'll just get you beans then." And they just sort of came through with like toast and beans, and she's like, "Sure, I guess." And then the cook came through and was like, this is really, we'll get you some vegan stuff for tomorrow. What about some vegan sausages?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure." So we had this big exchange, and she was like, and we got a vegan breakfast sorted for the morning. And we came down the next morning. We had to be up at like 6 a.m. to get our flights back. And we went down. We'd been out at the pub the night before. My dad was so hungover. He drank in the most the way that is most likely to produce a hangover. He had like a pint of stout, a red wine, a whiskey, a red wine, a whiskey, a pint of stout, and then woke up the next morning and was like, oh, I actually feel really bad today. I'm like, yeah, of course you do. Why would you feel good? So we were down at 6 a.m. the next morning. My dad's struggling to eat some breakfast, and they came through with the vegan breakfast, and it came to the stuff for my brother's partner, and they came through with a whole bunch of eggs, and they're like, here's your vegan breakfast. And she was just like, okay, I guess so. Like, and it, like, neither the I don't think the chef wasn't from Shetland. He was from the mainland, so it's not like this is some remote thing. Like they don't have vegans in Shetland, which would already be bullshit. He was just a mainlander. He just hadn't heard about vegans. Didn't understand the concept of a vegan. Oh man. Well, that's the experience of being a vegan in Japan. Sometimes they're like, that's fine, you can just have fish then. I had a similar experience in South Carolina where I asked this waiter if this dish was vegetarian. And they were like, oh yeah, it's vegetarian. And then it came and it was just chicken. And I was like, this isn't vegetarian. They were like, yeah, it's chicken. And I was like, yeah, it's chicken. Stout and red wine, was he trying yeah, exactly. Not just stout, red wine and whiskey. In my mind, the red wine whiskey combo is like probably the most lethal thing I can think of. Yeah. I live even further out than Shetland. We have they have vegan sausages. Like, they could have gone to the Tesco. They did go to the Tesco. They had the vegan sausages, and they understood the concept of vegan sausages, but they didn't understand that eggs weren't vegan. That was the thing. So they knew that vegans could eat vegan sausages, and they specifically got the vegan sausages, not the vegetarian ones, because there are some vegetarian sausages that aren't vegan. But didn't understand that eggs weren't vegan. It was bewildering. The night before though, we'd been drinking, and we'd all gone to the lounge bar after the wake to, I guess, celebrate. That's the wrong word, but to have a nice evening after an emotional day, and cheers, Sinan. Thank you. What was I saying? Oh yeah, that was it. And so we drank a fair amount, and we went back to the hotel, and the hotel bar. We were chatting to someone who was at the wake who used to work at the hotel bar, and said to us, "Oh, you got to be careful because a lot of the time they just charge £5 extra for shit for no reason." Whatever. So we turned up to the hotel bar, and my dad was quite drunk, and starts talking to the owner is working the bar, and he starts talking to the owner with the sentence, "Have you seen The Shining?" Like, there was no tact there. He was like, oh yeah, he was just going full on, like, oh yeah, this place is like a haunted hotel. And the thing, like, it was, like, the breakfast room as well had that, you know, that sort of tinkly lift music, that, like, elevator music that's in, like, horror films when you're in a haunted hotel. It was like that as well. Yeah, fucking hell. It was something. That's like it was the only place that was available to stay. It was, yeah, something else. Because normally, like, when we've been up, we'd obviously have stayed with my grandmother's house, but like my auntie and my cousin with their baby and stuff were there, so we couldn't. So we hadn't been aware of how tight accommodation is, and like in Shetland. Excuse me. In Shetland. Thank you to everyone who's congratulating, who's sending their congratulations. I appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna put on another tune. Then I will take a wee break and get some grapes for my wine. If you're lucky, if you're nice to me, I will get some grapes for the wine. And then we can chat about some terrible shows and some good shows that I saw at the Edinburgh Fringe, and anything else that anyone wants to chat about. Let's get some music done first, though. Cheers, Gil, and yeah, talk soon. Alright, I will be back in a few minutes with some grapes, if that's what you people really want. I just got the grapes. Well, that was a fucking ordeal. They were right at the bottom of the freezer. Now you just want the cat. We'll get the cat in a minute. Grapes. Lovely frozen grapes. Frozen grapes, fine wine. And by fine I mean okay and not like fine. The things I do for absolutely no reward. How do I chill my wine? Well, when it's not being consumed, I just put it in the fridge. But when I'm looking to chill it while I'm drinking it, well, I don't use ice cubes because I'm not Phil. Oh, no, sir, I'm not an idiot. I'm not gonna chill my wine with ice cubes. I use grapes, frozen grapes. I put in the wine to chill it without diluting it. That's how I do it. For anyone who didn't know. Chilled. Who wants to hear about some terrible shows I saw on the Fringe? Or anything else that you want to talk about? How many of us are here, by the way? How many of us are on this stream? 42, that's pretty good. We're doing not bad. So I went to the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm a stalwart of the Edinburgh Fringe. My first job was handing out flyers for the Edinburgh Fringe. A job for which I was paid £5 for a solid week's worth of work, and I quit on the spot as soon as I got that pay. Terrible job. So I have some sympathy. So I went to the Fringe and I saw some good stuff, but the bad stuff is what you want to hear about. Where do I start? I guess let's start with the stand-up comedy. I went to see this comedian in a middle of the day on like a Saturday, who so to preface this, I think that the Edinburgh Fringe would be better if we banned all people who went to private schools or are Americans and people who went to private school, ban them from the Fringe. I think that would improve the Fringe immeasurably. But having said that, the first person that I saw was neither of those people. It was a comedian who spent genuinely 10 minutes at the start of their hour-long set talking about putting out a trigger warning about how shocking the content we were about to see would be, how outrageous and difficult to comprehend this comedy set was going to be, and we just had to laugh and remember they were jokes. Wasn't a man, which is what I would have first assumed if I heard that description. She was a Chinese lady, and damn, some of my favourite podcasters at the Fringe went to private school. Hey man, I saw Milo as well. I enjoyed my Trash Future's very own Milo. His show was one of the better shows. Sometimes you catch out. Actually, did Milo go to private school? I don't know. He went to Cambridge, so I just assumed. Maybe he didn't go to private school. So was this Chinese woman who was doing comedy, and she spent genuinely 10 minutes at the start of her set talking about how it was so shocking. And it wasn't shocking. Like, it wasn't, like, none of the jokes were like, ooh. The jokes were just like, okay. And I think there were maybe 3 jokes in the show. The rest of it was just talking. And the room was so hot. It was so warm. And I was struggling throughout the show to stay awake. It was a really small room. It was maybe about the size of this room. So she could see me, like, and my face was just like this the whole way through because I was trying to stay awake. And the end of the show, she confronted me. She was like, "You weren't laughing. You weren't laughing in the show. Why weren't you laughing?" And I was just like, I don't know what to say to you here. It wasn't very, like, I didn't tell her, but I was just thinking, like, man, if I'm not laughing at your comedy show, you're not allowed to have a go at me. I'm the one who's supposed to be mad. Like, it's not my fault it wasn't funny. I'm sorry. It was so unfunny. It was so unfunny. And after anytime, like, she told a joke and people didn't laugh, she'd be like, "Oh, I guess that's too shocking for you. I guess that joke's too dark and too shocking for you." And we were just like, no, it wasn't. It was just not, I guess not even technically a joke. It was just words. That was bad. That was a bad thing. Another bad thing we saw. We'll get to the good things, because I don't like to be in misery guts all the time. But another bad thing we saw was have I seen the Alistair Beckett King sketch about comedians? Is that the ginger guy? Because I might have seen that if it's the ginger guy. Hello Liz, how are you doing? Your housemate with Milo, and I rescind it. I rescind my comment. I like Milo. Milo's a mate, and his show was it was one of the best things that I saw at the Fringe. I just assumed because he went to Cambridge, which, to be fair, is a fair assumption. Milo's show was really good. If he does that, does it beyond the Fringe, which I assume he will, I thoroughly recommend seeing it. It was very funny, and it was a relief to see some competent comedy after some of the shocking displays that I'd seen earlier. Weirdly, it was at 12 in the afternoon, which was annoying. But aside from that, it was good. The other thing I saw, I think this was maybe one of the first things I saw. It might actually have been the first thing I'd seen during the Fringe, this year's Fringe. went to meet my old university flatmate, and we went to see a show at the Banshee Labyrinth, free show, the Banshee Labyrinth, which is always hit and miss, mostly miss. It was this show was like, it was like a attempt to do a satire of performance art. Like it was American, so abolish. And the show was, she referenced Marina Abramovich, the performance artist. So I guess it was supposed to be a satire of that, but it was also kind of supposed to be performance art in itself. And the show, I'm 100% certain that at least 3 people in the audience were plants. When we were waiting outside, my friend was asked if he was like Lawrence or something several times by the performer. she was like, "Oh, are you Lawrence? Are you Lawrence?" He was like, "Nah, man, I'm not Lawrence. I don't know what to tell you." And then everyone who was involved in the show seemed to do whatever the person wanted them to do. And then at one point, she was wearing like sort of leotard, and this woman in the crowd shouted, "Get your tits out!" And she did this whole bit about, like, "Oh, I can't believe you'd say that to me." And then a pre-recorded voice, she ended up getting her tits out, and a pre-recorded voice said, "You can't be doing nudity on stage. That's outrageous." And I was just like, "Oh, so this person in the audience is just a plant to shout that at you? What's going on here?" And she did this whole bit about like 5 minutes of shouting just over and over again in a fake Scottish accent. "It's my granny's spine. It's my granny's spine. It's my granny's spine." And I was just sitting there going, "Fucking hell, man! Fucking hell! Please, this is not good." And then the worst part of it was, so she had this pre-recorded voice playing at certain bits that would be like, "Oh, you're terrible. This isn't performance. People don't get you. This is too inaccessible. This isn't performance art. This is just terrible." And then she took 10 minutes out to break down in tears and be like, "Art is the only thing I know how to do. It's the only way I know how to live. And I just need to learn how to overcome this voice in my head that's telling me that my art's terrible." And I was just sitting there thinking, man, listen to the voice. Please, just listen to that. You do need to listen to that voice. If anything, it will make your art better. If you're insisting on doing it, because this is bad. This is bad. This is so bad. Why are you subjecting me to this? Like, at one point, like she get like every time the voice came out, she like this pre-recorded voice, she like answered a phone, and the phone was a fruit, and then she ate the fruit, and but like there are ways to eat fruit funny. One of them was a banana. She had a banana, and if I was gonna, I'm not a professional comedian. I don't know if anyone knows this. I'm not a professional comedian, but if I had a banana and someone was like, "John, eat this banana funny," I would just chomp down on it, probably sideways with the skin on. But this parrot, she did not have the guts to just chomp down on this banana with the skin on sideways. She peeled it and ate it, and it was expecting us to laugh. "Oh, you ate your phone, you peeled the banana, and ate it slightly quicker than normal? That's coward behavior. Eat the banana sideways, chomp down on it, and that's how you eat a banana funny. That's how you do it." She ate a lemon, but she didn't even swallow the lemon. Come on. There are ways. I've eaten fruit. I'm about to swallow some grapes. Whole. I know how to eat fruit funny, and I was so mad about that, and I guess I still am. I didn't realize that was going to evoke something in me, but I'm mad about the inability to eat fruit funny. Fruit's just funny. And it's funny to eat it in weird ways. And if you fail to do that, stop doing your, I guess, performance art. That was a bad show. It was a bad show. But I got out of yeah, I mean, peel a banana, eat it from the side or something. That's still a coward's way out, but at least it's something. It's like not the normal way to eat a banana. Like, eat it. You should take a chomp out of it. If Grape and McElroy is better at comedy and eating bananas than you have failed. That's the ground level for chomping on fruit is Grape and McElroy. And he's eating fruit funny. That's a man who can eat fruit funny, and you're failing to eat fruit funnier than him. I'm afraid. But that night I got out late because I went home because I needed to get a night bus and I needed to be up early the next day. So I left about 1. And my friend texted me the next day and he was like, "Mate, you got lucky." Because they decided to go to a comedy show afterwards as well. One that seemed to them to be interesting and fun. And they turned up. And it was a guy who ate a kilogram of cheese, slice by slice, for 1 hour. Nothing except this. And after each slice of cheese, he just said, that's nice cheese, for 1 hour. And then, apparently, he seemed to get mad at people who were heckling him because they didn't find it funny, to the extent that he picked up a lady by the lapels and screamed at her face to let him finish his show. He was also wearing a whoopee cushion. I forgot to mention that bit. And apparently it was almost a riot by the time it ended, because people were so mad that this guy wanted to put on this show, which again, this is a guy who it seemed was trying to make it performance art as well as comedy, and was angry that people were heckling him and didn't know how to deal with people heckling him. And I get the concept. You know what? I get the concept of laughing at eating the cheese thing. And you know why I get that concept? Because it's a Simpsons joke from 30 years ago. So you're not allowed to make it a feature of your performance art. You're obscure, like, oh, this is breaking the boundaries of comedy. It's not. This was a Simpsons bit from 30 years ago. Homer Simpson ate cheese all night. Then when Marge came in the morning, she said, "Homer, did you eat all that cheese?" And he went, "I think I'm blind." And that was funny. I'm afraid you've been out-funnied by The Simpsons, and your bit isn't experimental, it's just shit. And apparently he did the show every night for a month. A kilogram of cheese every night for a month. And the previous year he'd done it with chocolate eclairs. And he was in the previous show we'd been to. He was shouted out by this fake performance artist that we'd been at. Yeah. I'm glad I missed that one. Hello, Milu. I'm glad you're enjoying my Fringe stories. A kilo of cheese every night for a month. It's just not fair. It's just not a fair thing to do. It's not a fair thing to do to people. There were two more shows which were bad, which I saw. And I don't want, like, this is probably one of the best years I've spent at the Fringe. I saw much more good stuff than I saw bad stuff. And we'll get to the good stuff in a second. But the last two bad shows, the other one was also at Banshee Labyrinth at like 1 o'clock in the morning, was a clown, an Italian man who was a clown, who was advertised as a clown, who, oh dear, he spent blessedly only 40 minutes, not an hour, doing his work in progress show, which, fuck, if any words have been more apt in life, it's that show was a work in progress, where he basically entertained us in the way that my dad would entertain us when we were toddlers in the bath. He sang silly songs using a tape measure as a microphone, or he did a trick where he got us to throw an imaginary ball back at him, and he would pretend to catch it on a tape measure, or he would, I don't know, like draw a picture of his face on his face. At one point he stripped off to like some boxing gear and ran around, and not much to say about that. It was just really bad. It was just really bad. It was just really bad. It made me think, Like, if anyone tells me they're a clown, it's on site. If you come at me and tell me you're a clown, we are fists right now. I'm fighting you on the street. I've had it with clowns. They're not a protected characteristic in my book. Because of that show, I will fight and probably kill any clown I come across. From now until the end of time, because of that show. All clowns are bastards. That is exactly right. So now that's the bad shows, let's talk about some of the good shows. I saw one of the best things I've seen. I saw Cirque d'Afrique, African Circus, which was fucking incredible. It was amazing. The music, the performances, the contortionist, the acrobatics. There was a bit where all of the male acrobatics came on stage topless, very hot, wearing workman hats. And before their act started, I was like, "There's a bit in The Simpsons where anyone seen The Simpsons episode where Homer's worried Bart might be gay, so he takes him to a steel mill, and then in the steel mill, someone blows a whistle, and the foreman says, Homer says, "What's going on?" And the foreman says, "We work hard, we play hard," and then it turns into a gay bar. That's all I was thinking. And then these acrobats started doing like this sort of acrobatic sort of like stripper performance. It was very good. I appreciated it a lot. Then they did like it was amazing. It was one of the best things I've ever seen in the Fringe. Top class. I also saw Jazz Emu, who is on TikTok as Jazz Emu, who does like kind of disco tracks, disco funk tracks. And I was like, TikTok guy probably won't be that good. TikTok people rarely are good beyond TikTok. But he was fucking brilliant. He was really, really funny. He was such a good musician. Fully recommend. And then the last really good show was Emi Ezeme, I believe that's her name. Let me just look it up, because I followed her on Twitter. Yeah, Emi Essien, who did like sort of a stand-up comedy show, but it was more spoken word kind of performance as well. And it was and she was brilliant. She was great. If anyone's around London, I think she's from London. If anyone's from around London and gets a chance to see her, go for it. She was brilliant. But it's always less exciting to hear about the good stuff than it is about the terrible stuff. So yeah, these were the good shows and the bad shows that I saw on the Fringe. We also went to Mary King's Close. Does anyone heard of Mary King's Close? That was very good. Not been there in years. Yeah. I just finished a month at Flyering. It was a great experience, but I'm happy it's over. Were you I don't know your name, but AYYY. Were you performing, or were you just flyering for another performer? Because that was my first job, was flyering for not a performer but like a venue, and they fucked me over so bad that I stopped. It was when I was doing Bob Monster or something. It was a guy who was previously the manager for Bloodhound Gang, and it paid me £5 for about 30 hours of work, and I quit, obviously, and I hear that he is now blacklisted from the comedy scene for being a terrible bastard, and that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, that was one of the worst jobs I had, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. One time, last year, I remember seeing this TikTok comedian posting about how he's in Edinburgh for the festival, and he was like, "Oh, I'm in Edinburgh. How do people live in Edinburgh? It's so beautiful here. Such an amazing life. I'm so excited to spend a month of my life here." And oh man, it was like watching someone slowly walk into traffic. It's like, you don't know what's coming for you. And then I came into town about 3 weeks later, and I saw the guy from TikTok, and he was flying for someone else's show. He was pale. He was so tired. I wanted to mother him. I was like, have a lovely soup. Have like a nice warm soup. You need to have a nice warm soup, because you look in a bad state. I do not want to go back. Oh, there's something I did. We went to St Giles Cathedral, which is on the Royal Mile. I've not been to St Giles, and I don't know if I've ever been, but if I have, it's been years ago. And they had this gift shop which had I should do some more cooking content. I made a nice cake while I was away. But St Giles has this gift shop which has like the clan. It had like a list of clan fucking bullshit. Clan stuff is all bullshit, by the way. But it had a clan list with all their mottos, and I found out that the motto for the Duncan clan is "Learn to suffer." Learn to suffer. The Duncan motto. Have you met me? Have you come to my channel? Well, learn to suffer. I wish I'd known that earlier, because a lot of the content on this channel is learn to suffer content. I hope you've all learned to suffer. A cooking live stream would be quite nice. Actually, I should maybe do that. Have a think about that. Do you all know how to suffer? Yeah, good. I'm gonna make a new tune. How does that describe the appearance? You know what? My experience writing the PhD has been honestly really good. A lot of people have had really bad experiences. My worst experiences have not been writing the PhD or doing the research. I had a wonderful supervisor who's been extremely supportive, has worked in a way that I am extremely comfortable working with, and I've ended up doing something that I'm quite proud of doing. So my PhD didn't make me learn to suffer. The things that make me learn to suffer are all the stuff around the PhD, including trying to survive and make money and live. That stuff is the real learn to suffer stuff. But this big old thing, nah, fine. Ain't got no trouble. It was quite fun. A is saying, my name's Ella. No show of my own, was flying for the Scottish Comedy Festival guys at Beehive and Grassmarket. £15 an hour in the actual super. Oh, that's love. £15 an hour is fucking brilliant. I wish I got that. You got lucky. I do know that there was a big push maybe a year or two ago, because a bunch of promoters had been really fucking with flyers and paying them dirt wages, and I think that I think that might have helped stuff. But I'm glad you had a good time. I did not. Do I have to defend my PhD thesis? Yes, I am sorting out right now. Sorting out the examiners. We have one who's probably going to do it, and waiting on. Tried to get confirmation from another. Did I get funding for my PhD? I didn't. It's been both self-funded and support from my parents, because it's the only way I could have done it. A lot of the funding for social science stuff is so bad in the UK. Yeah. I feel like the living conditions of most PhD students seems to often impact the experience of it entirely. Yeah, absolutely. The two things, I mean, supervisor is the other thing, but probably in a weird sense, COVID probably really helped me, because I was for the first 6-8 months of my PhD, I was living in this like horrible little hovel, this little cupboard in North London, because it was the only place I could afford, and it was really, that was hard. That was a difficult place to live. But COVID meant I had to go back home, live with my parents, which was fine. It was nice. It meant I didn't have to pay rent, and I could save up money to live in a nicer place when I got back. And then when I've lived in this place, I landed on my feet because my flatmate is very lovely, and this place is relatively cheap for me. And that combined with my supervisor being very nice has put me in a very lucky position of being able to enjoy actually writing the PhD more than anything. How does free tuition in Scotland work in your postgrad? I'm not in Scotland, so the way free tuition in Scotland, so you technically get you're entitled to 5 years of free tuition, which covers your undergrad and your postgrad. But my postgrad wasn't covered with free tuition because it wasn't a useful degree. So I ended up paying my postgrad myself. My master's degree was I paid for that myself. And then I moved to England, and being a PhD student in England is particularly bad for finding any sources of funding, because you don't have any recourse to PhD loans from the UK government because you're a Scottish citizen, and you're not. You don't get any funding from the Scottish government because you're studying in England. So you're in this sort of peculiar position of having absolutely no recourse to public funds, without any research council funding. Yeah, the useful degree shit is bad. It's really grim. I don't know if it's changed since that was 2017 when I 2016, sorry, when I started that. I don't know if it's changed since then, but yeah, it was bad. I remember being very mad when I couldn't get my my free tuition fees there. I think I might still be entitled to another master's or something, because I didn't pay for that. But that's basically how that works. Probably worse now. Yeah, it's probably worse now. Yeah. So that's how that worked. I mean, someone asked what someone was asking what my best advice for a postgrad was. And if it's someone who's looking for doing PhD stuff, it's find a supervisor, not necessarily one who has the most expertise in the area you're looking to examine, but one who you most gel with personally, because with the skills of research, doing a PhD is mostly about your own research and your own skill, developing those skills yourself, and your supervisor can help you develop those skills, can help you gain the skill the skills necessary to write a PhD. Their job isn't necessarily to fact check you, or necessarily to give you all the answers. It's to help you and support you to do that stuff yourself. And a good supervisor, like my supervisor, and his last sort of advice to me was, when he was talking about the final thesis, was like, there's stuff he would do differently, but because it's my work, there's no point in even suggesting the stuff that he would do differently, because it would then not be his work. And a good supervisor recognizes that what they're trying to do is not produced work that they consider work that they would produce, but to try and help the student produce the best work that they want to produce. And that would, finding a supervisor who gels with you on a personal level and who understands that would be my most, I think, the most important piece of advice I would offer anyone who's looking to do a PhD or things like that. The funding in England is shite. Managed to get EASRC funding, but it's limited, and the COVID kind of added years to my work. And they were like, yeah, I have a friend who started on London Humanities and Arts funding, and COVID didn't fuck me at all, because my research could be conducted online and it could be conducted via Zoom calls, and it actually probably helped. Because initially I was planning on doing in-person interviews, and then suddenly I was like, just do it Zooms, fine. But he was planning on travelling to West Papua to doing in-person research on the colonialism and genocide happening in West Papua. And obviously COVID fucked that. And London Arts and Humanities Partnership has very stringent requirements for when you finish your work. And now he's having a bit of a real amount of trouble dealing with them. Which is fucked, because it's like, what do you expect him to do? It's COVID. It was a global pandemic. And it's an absurd thing to... it's absurd. I was doing English and I dropped out during COVID, but even being on that course, it was just really poorly supported. So I wasted 1 year I wasted 1 year out of my 4 years tuition, and they won't let me claim it back despite my circumstances. That sounds like absolute bollocks. Fucking hell. That sounds miserable. I'm sorry. Are we getting free masters? Paying $1,900 for mine, which is after both a discount and SAS funding. You're supposed to get, I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but you're supposed to get some degree of funding for your masters, depending on the masters. There are some masters. I think it's only a very limited number that they offer funding for, which are considered useful, and I think they're mainly engineering. They're mainly oil stuff. From my last sort of glance at it, that was funded. I don't expect many people to get funded masters anymore. It's fucked. Everyone in trouble with their funding body. Thank you, Kit. Let's get another bit of music on, and then we'll return to chat. I'm thinking about getting something more upbeat. Sorry, again, I didn't like that one. I didn't like how it was turning out. We're gonna try again. That's quite nice. It wasn't upbeat. We didn't end up upbeat. But it's nice. Oh man, I still got some grapes to eat, don't I? I might save that one for a song at some point. What was I gonna... How old am I? I am 29. Thank you, Pinko Punko. And yeah, thanks. Yeah, I am nearly in my 30s. And I am eating grapes on camera for, and I saying this again, for no money. I'm doing it just for the fun of it. When you get to that fucking your late 20s, you just eat swallow frozen grapes whole for the fun of it, like a grape penguin. Hey man, I like grapes, but swallowing frozen grapes whole, I don't recommend it. 30s is where it's at, so much better than 20s. I hope so. My streams are funded by MI6. I am here to subvert the revolution and to get you all to start caring about liberal identity politics. Oh, thank you, Davis. I sent you a message with the link to the Discord and everything. I hope you got that. Shoot me a message if you need anything. 30s is the same as 20s, but more random pain. I'm getting conflicting messages from the chat about the role of the 30s. Alright. Who wants to watch me eat a frozen grape then? We're here. We're finally at the frozen grape time. I'm a plant from Big Grape. That is true. I'm here from Big Grape. Drinking wine, eating frozen grapes. What's next? I like this shirt, by the way. I've not worn this shirt for a while. I like it. Thank you, Pickatobi. We are just preparing to eat some frozen grapes on stream, because that's what you do when you submit your PhD. You get bullied by chat into eating some frozen grapes. Is swallowing frozen grapes a thing that's done, or is it a John Duncan original? I mean, I hope it's not a thing that's done, because otherwise I've lost my fucking niche. Alright. Frozen grape time. Man, the things I do for you people. Shall I try and catch it in my mouth? This is what I do for you people. This is the level. This you wouldn't find this in the fucking Fringe. This is what I do. Chucking those grapes up, catching them in my mouth. That's what we do here. Am I gonna do it again? No, in case I miss. But this is entertainment. Fucking Steven Spielberg could never. This is why I make the big bucks. This is how communism is going to happen. That clip of me catching a grape in my mouth, that's how communism is going to happen. And that's how I got my PhD. They're nice grapes. The trick is, you gotta aim, when you're throwing it up, you gotta aim for like the base of your tongue. That's how you catch stuff on your mouth. That's not a lie, that is genuinely how you do it. More great propaganda, exactly. Yeah. Still more entertaining than eating a banana funny. It absolutely is. If that woman had thrown up a banana and swallowed it whole like a gannet, that would have been great. I would have loved that. Swallowing a banana whole like you're a giant penguin, that is comedy. That's comedy in my book. Sure, you might throw it up, but you just pretend that, you know, you're feeding your chicks. That's comedy. That's how it works. Edinburgh Fringe, give me a spot. Fucking hell, man. You know, in some job applications, I link to this YouTube channel. If they watch the streams, man. It's a wonder I don't have a job already. Someone asked me early on, I think it was Milu, talk about music, do you sing too? I do. I have I have an album on Bandcamp. I'm working on the other right now, but I've not got any singing on the new album yet. I've just got a few tracks made. It's probably going to take a while before I have anything there. It's been a while since I've sung properly though. When I was making this last album, I was doing singing lessons, but not being able to sing properly for a while, which is why I'm nervous to try and start again. There we go. There you go. That is a link to the Bandcamp. Yeah, it's me on the opening videos, yeah. That's got the singing, that is me. What's next? Postdoc, prof, or out of academia? Well, I won't be professor. I'm trying to get a teaching job. In the UK, a professor is a specific position, which is like the way that I could teaching or academic positions work broadly in the UK academia is that you have lecturer, senior lecturer, and then professor. You're not called professor just because you have a teaching role like in America, but you have to. It's a specific, very highly paid job. You don't really get. Yeah, no, you don't get that. You can get junior lecturer. Junior lecturer. I mean, most likely I'm gonna get the most likely job I will get will be a teaching assistant before lecturer, because job market is bad. A friend of yours has an amazing singing voice but sings in an American accent. It's weird that there's two sides of that, because there was a stage in Scottish singing where they all sang in like over exaggerated Scottish accents, like Biffy Clyro, that sort of shite, and they were like, I'm a Scottish man and I'm singing a Scottish song, and you're like, man, this just sounds fucking trash. And it sounds like you're trying very hard. But there's a weird tendency to like go the complete other direction, just sound like an American. Part of it is like I think there's part of like the vowel sounds when you're singing. The American accent is more conducive to prolonged vowel sounds, I think, than a Scottish accent. And even just singing normally ends up sounding more American because of like holding on to those vowel sounds. This is just my pet theory, and that's I think one of the reasons why people end up sounding kind of American, because no one wants to hear like hanging onto a note where the Scottish, like where you're going ah. No one wants that sound, ah. Bad sound. Weirdly, would I sing in an English accent? Weirdly, one of the ways I've been able to like do an impression of English people is thinking about the band Bellowhead and their songs, and they sing in a very English accent, and using them to get into the English accent. I wouldn't sing in it, but like, because that'd be fucking weird. But they're useful for sort of getting into an English accent if you're ever trying to make fun of an English person, which is always okay. One of the few genres where Americans have imitated the British singing accent is punk. Yeah, and that sucks. You don't need to do it, Americans. You don't need to do it. You've got plenty of punk yourself. You don't need to imitate English people. Nobody needs to imitate English people. Do I sing in a different accent? I am not sure. I've not tried. It's not something I've been conscious of trying to do. A lot of when I was doing singing lessons, a lot of the stuff I would do, just because my voice is suited to it, is like folk songs, trad and folk songs, and a lot of trad and folk songs are obviously like Scottish trad and folk songs are written in a Scottish like tone, and crafting a song in that tone means that you don't have some of those problems that I was talking about earlier about like weird vowel sounds and stuff. That actually it obviously helps, and so it was fine. I didn't have to change my accent. Yeah, a lot. So not really. I think there's like singing your own accent. I think, like I say, there's degrees of it, where some Scottish bands will overemphasize a Scottish accent in a way to sound more authentic, and they actually end up sounding fucking weird. Did I figure out my best singing genre via lessons? Kind of. I kind of always knew that I would have a better genre for like folk and trad, because it's more suited to a baritone voice. A lot of rock, a lot of electronic music, a lot of pop music. Tenor voices are much preferred. A baritone voice isn't normally used and all that stuff. It's unusual. But in folk music it's just normal. So there's a lot more that's useful for me to sing. On that note, I'm gonna change up the tune. I want to do something disco. I want something dancing. Oh no, I lost it. I didn't mean to do that. We're gonna have to build the track again. I'm sorry, I lost that one. I didn't mean to. Let's try again. Try build it up for the different direction. We'll make something else. There we go. Bit of a hiccup in between, but there we go. So I'll probably start to draw this stream to a close, unless anyone's got anything that they'd like to throw into the mix. Hey, Silver Samaritan, thank you. We were thinking about drawing to a close, unless there's anything I've forgotten to talk about, or anything that anyone wants me to talk about, any questions that they have, or anything about shit that they want to talk about. Mainly because I'm nearly finished the wine. But otherwise, yeah. Thank you, Davis. I am vastly disappointed with this wine. It was I thought I was going to buy. What am I using for a drum machine? It is a JTC drum loop. It's a fun looper. It's a good loop machine. Lots of time, much better than my previous loop machine. You can make lots of fun shit on it. The drums are a little bit limited, but it's still very good. Yeah. Oh, the cat. Yeah, let me get the cat. I'll grab the cat. Give me a second. He's just been asleep on his little heated pad, so he's very sleepy. He just wants to sleep on my shoulder right now. He's too sleepy. The thing that wakes him up is the idea that someone is going into one of the rooms. If someone goes into one of the rooms, he will run to say hi. Oh, Harker. Sorry, I didn't say. Thank you for the message, and thank you for joining us. Put him back to his little heated pad so he can go back to sleep again. Poor beast. Just waking him up to exploit him. Alright, so we've all got the cat. Let's draw this to a close now. Thanks for coming, everyone. Been a good way to celebrate the completion of our fucking brick. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Hopefully the next celebration will be the Viva celebration, where I can actually call myself Duncan. I can call myself Duncan, Dr. Duncan. We'll catch you another time.